Hello, everybody, and welcome to CCCLXVI, the podcast where I talk about movies and other stuff.
We're going to talk about the chronology of the Dollars Trilogy.
Now, this might sound like a really weird topic to be talking about. Like, how many people actually actively discuss the chronology of the Dollars Trilogy? And if you don't know what we're referring to, we're referring to the order of events, or the order of the movies in Sergio Leone's Dollars Trilogy, which consists of A Fistful of Dollars for a Few Dollars More, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which is one of my favorite film trilogies of all time, and I think it's also yours, right, Benji?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so we've often pondered the question of what order do these movies take place in, because it's not really clear what order these movies take place in. You know, you might think, well, they take place in the order in which they're released, but that's not quite the case, because there isn't really a clear connection between these three films, other than the fact of Clint Eastwood, and we don't even know if he plays the same character, or if he just plays a Clint Eastwood guy throughout the entire film. You know what I'm saying right there, Benji?
Uh-huh.
So these films might not even be connected at all. If they are not, then I guess you should just not listen to this whole thing. But I think we've talked about this for a really long time, and we have some very unique opinions on this. So I want you to talk about what order you think the films are first, Benji. Okay, so what order do you think these films are?
Well, I feel like A Fistful of Dollars is the first one, and then I kind of think that, it's weird. I kind of think, well, what I like to do is look at, how much money he makes, you know?
Yeah, I know what you mean by that.
Because if you make a whole lot of money, you want to do another thing, you know? So he makes the most amount of money in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, right? So that makes me feel like it's the last one, but it doesn't really seem like the last one.
Yeah, I know what you mean by that. I mean, I'm not quite sure what the answer to this is, which is why I think it's such a fun thing to talk about, is because you can believe anything, and you can be right, because there is no real true answer, is there?
Yeah.
Because it's all up to speculation. I mean, there is not really that many facts to point to what order the movies take place in. I mean, they might point to certain props or whatever that they used, but I don't really consider that, because these films are, or at least some of these films, I mean, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly wasn't as low budget, but I mean, A Fistful of Dollars was really low budget. It was not really low budget, it was a low budget film, so they didn't really pay too much attention to the time that these props, not the props were created, but the props that, like the guns their props are representing, were created. You get what I'm saying by that?
Uh-huh.
People will point to it saying it takes place in reverse order because of the props and stuff, and I sort of like that idea, but I don't know, I'm not quite sure how to feel about that, because I am sort of inclined to agree with you a little bit that these things take place in chronological order. The chronology is the way that they were released, which I think a lot of people actually don't say. To make this conversation a little bit more interesting, I'm going to take an alternative route. So a lot of people will suggest that The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is a prequel, and that A Fistful of Dollars, or it's A Fistful of Dollars, right? Is first, and then For a Few Dollars More, or no, A Fistful of Dollars is second, and then For a Few Dollars More, and then The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is first. However, what I'm going to do, and I'm going to say, just for the sake of argument, is that these films take place backwards. And so you're saying they take place in order, and I'm going to argue the exact opposite of that. So does that sound interesting?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and so what I really like Benji's opinion on this is the one that I personally think is true, because I think it has the most amount of character growth or whatever for him, for Blondie, or Joe, or Manko, or whatever his name is.
Manko.
We don't really know. The man with no name.
Yeah.
But I'm going to argue this. So I want you to... So you pointed to the money, which is a pretty good thing, you know. If he gets more money, then he won't do as much, you know. If he had $200,000, was it 200,000 or 100,000?
I don't know, but in a fistful of dollars, he makes the least amount of money, right?
Yeah, and he looks really poor, which is why I don't like this. But what I'm going to suggest is that he begins in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and he begins, sort of working with Tuco or whatever, you know.
Yeah. And
so while he's working with Tuco or whatever, he ends up betraying him, and then he goes through all the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly plot, and then he finds this money. And so with this money, he stores it or something, and so, but he doesn't like just living a rich life. So he goes and he becomes a bounty hunter. So what he does is he hunts bounties and stuff, and For a Few Dollars More happens. And so he meets the Lee Van Cleef character in For a Few Dollars More. There's actually a line that sort of suggests that For a Few Dollars More takes place before A Fistful of Dollars, because in A Fistful of Dollars he's helping out a family, and he's saying, I know somebody else like you who could have needed help or something. And I think he's referring to Lee Van Cleef in For a Few Dollars More, because they're like, the father and mother and their son are going to get separated or whatever, and like Lee Van Cleef lost like a sister or something.
Mm-hmm.
Which other people have pointed to that as well. And this is like not really entirely original, by the way. I mean, there's been actually a lot of speculation about this, which seems really weird for a topic like this, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I think, and I'm not quite. And so he has all this money at the end of For a Few Dollars More. You know, he has all of his money from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and For a Few Dollars More. But then I'm just going to presume that he like wastes it, or he gets robbed or something, which leads him into a fistful of dollars. And then he ends riding out of town, which I like that. I also think there's, you know, a lot of character growth or whatever in that, because, you know, he sort of begins, even though he is the good in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, he isn't really the good. You know, I mean, he kills the most amount of people, and he's a bad guy. I mean, nobody's really good in that movie, but I mean, Clint Eastwood is the best person out of all the people in that movie, I'd say. Maybe not Tuco. But he's by no means the actual good character. And so then after, you know, he goes and he does all that, he actually becomes a better person, but he's still killing people for bounties. And then at the end of For a Fistful of Dollars, he makes a sacrifice or whatever, and he helps the family out, and then he ends. You know, so I think there's a lot of, you know, character development stuff. So do you like that theory, Benji?
What, your theory?
Yeah, my theory.
I mean, I don't agree with it.
You don't? Yeah, I know you don't agree with it, but do you think it's interesting? Do you like it?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Now I want you to talk about your theory. So what do you think happens in this? Or
well,
what the order? Whatever.
It starts with a fistful of dollars, and he's just kind of like, you know, trying to get money or something. You know, after I don't know. I mean, anything could have happened before the movie, but then he's starting, and he's getting money just by doing something, and he doesn't get a lot of money, but he's poor, and so that's fine with him. And then, you know, and then in the For a Few Dollars More, he's
still poor.
He's still poor.
He's hunting for bounties, right?
He's still poor.
What you're trying to say? Yeah, he's still poor.
He's hunting for bounties, but then he gets a lot of money. But then, like, that money isn't that much compared to what he gets in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. But then he keeps on going on, because
And so he ends up, you know, like, abusing the bounty system. You know, because we've talked about this, and you do sort of get this from me.
Yeah, well, you see, he was, like, bounty hunting, and then, like, later he abuses the bounty system in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, you know?
Yeah. And then he finds this whole treasure thing, and then he gets the treasure thing.
And then after that, he's got enough money
to not have to do anything ever again, so he can just go killing people all day long.
Yeah.
Is that what you're trying to say? Yeah.
Pretty much.
No, I like that. And it does also end with a good act. You know, it ends with him cutting the rope around Tuco's neck, you know, which is a good act. But the thing is your evidence for that is the money, you know, which is not the best, but it's a little bit of proof, you know, and there isn't really that much proof. I mean, I have just one line of dialogue that may or may not actually mean anything, but you have, you know, like, reasonable actions.
Ethan, so what I think about that line of dialogue, what if he's talking about his family? And that's why he had to go out and do the stuff in a fistful of dollars.
That might be true. That's some good thinking right there, yeah. I don't know, it's just a really interesting topic to consider, so, yeah. I mean, this topic has been both a serious and joking topic for us, because what we'll do is, like, we'll be sitting in a place and we'll listen to somebody else saying, who would win, like Batman or Spider-Man or something. And so we'll say, like, oh, they're a bunch of nerds. And so then what Benji will say is, so, back onto the chronology of the Dollars Trilogy. Which I think is, I don't know, I like talking about it, though, because it has a lot of different things you can take about it. And there is no real right side to it, you know? Because it's all really opinions, which I really like a topic that you can. And you see, I normally would take Benji's side, but because he took that side, I'm going to take the opposite side, and I'm going to try to. And you know, you can take all sorts of different things in it. Mm-hmm. It's just such a good. And also, I really love the trilogy, the Dollars Trilogy. You know, so yeah. I like talking about those. You know, I love Clint Eastwood. I mean, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is my favorite film of all time. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so basically, you've taken that the films are released in chronological order. And I'm taking the opposite, that the films were released in backwards chronological order. So let's take another side, okay? So I'm gonna do the most often thing, okay? I'm gonna do what everyone says, that The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is a prequel, and A Fistful of Dollars, and then For a Few Dollars More, okay?
Okay, got it.
So
what does that say?
So basically, we're just presenting things, you know. So basically what the people say is that in A Fistful, or in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, he goes and he kills all the people and he takes all their money and stuff. What happens in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And then he has all this money. And then some people theorize that he loses it, and other people theorize that he actually just, hid it, because he likes not having a lot of money and going into towns, and shooting everybody.
I'd like to say he loses it if I were supporting that theory.
Yeah, I think it's...
Like, he either wastes it or something, or he loses it.
Yeah, I sort of like that theory, a little bit of irony or whatever. But I like the idea of him having a happy ending. I'm a person that really likes happy endings, and so are you, Benji, right?
Yes.
I mean,
so I don't like.
You'll love a movie until it has a happy ending, and then you'll give it a negative score.
What do you mean?
Such as, The Way We Were. You love that. You really liked that film, but you hated it because it had a sad ending.
Yes.
And I agree with you. I don't like films with sad endings, but sometimes, sad endings are good.
Like in Braveheart.
Like in Braveheart, yeah.
I'm okay with that ending.
That's not as much of a sad ending, as just like an ending. That has the main character dying. Spoiler alert, by the way. Dang it. We said we're not going to say that anymore. Whatever. This is a spoiler podcast, but we talk about, whatever. It's too late. So, what were we talking about?
I don't know.
Braveheart?
Yes.
Yeah. The ending of Braveheart. And I don't know. I mean, it's sort of sad, but at the same time, it doesn't really feel sad because, he gets what he wants, Scotland fighting for its freedom and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Really nice. And then other times there's movies that I think should have a sad ending that actually don't. And for example is Unforgiven.
Yes, that should.
We both thought, and we've talked about this before, that Unforgiven was going to have a sad ending,
I'm okay with it having a happy ending. Not really, I guess.
It just seems sort of weird, it's his goodbye to Westerns, he's played a bad guy who's trying to redo things, and then he goes back into his bad guy ways, and then he lives at the end of it. He goes and he kills everybody, and then he just walks away. He rides away.
With all the money.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Yeah. I think he probably should have died. And there's like a fake out too. Gene Hackman or whatever.
He starts getting
he's not actually dead, and so he's about to grab his gun, and then he just shoots him.
And then Clint Eastwood just
shoots him.
Shoots him. I mean, it's like
it's I don't know. I like it though. But should it have had a sad ending? Maybe. I don't know. And then at the end of like the killing, that has a sad ending. But I mean, they're bad guys. They deserve a sad ending.
No,
bad guys don't deserve a happy ending.
No, they don't. Yeah, it depends on what type of bad guys.
They're the bad guys, The people in the killing are bad people, They go when they rob a store, they kill a horse.
No, but that horse was evil. Satan.
It's a Satan horse?
It's a Satan horse.
We've been talking about bad and happy endings in our podcast about the chronology of the Dollar Trilogy. But this is sort of like what I want to talk about, I just want to, sort of talk about movies and what we like and what we don't like for 20 minutes. And I don't want it to be as structured,
Yes. Okay.
As before. But, so, back onto the chronology of the Dollar Trilogy. Ha 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 ha. We were talking about how that's what we say earlier.
Yes.
I like it. I think that's a funny joke.
Yes.
My favorite is actually your theory, Benji, but I also sort of like my theory because I just presented it. So I think it gets onto the question of arguments, and how arguments can actually, or not arguments, but more like debates and discussion, because we aren't having an argument, we're discussing it, and how taking a different side in a discussion can actually change your view,
Uh-huh.
I mean, there was an episode of Hello Internet, because we love talking about Hello Internet, the thing that sort of inspired us to do this a little bit. I mean, you like Hello Internet, right, Benji?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Did you start listening after we did this or before?
What do you mean?
Did you start listening to Hello Internet after we started the podcast or before we started?
Of course not. The whole reason I wanted a podcast was because of it.
Okay. Well, I don't remember because I listened before you.
Yeah.
There are one of the people in it often takes the opposing side to the other person whenever they're discussing stuff, and so his opinion is often changed, which I find very interesting. Like in the discussion about Bodie McBoatface, there was like this whole thing about whether or not some boat should be named Bodie McBoatface, because what they did is they asked the internet, what should we name our new ship? And they had an internet poll or whatever, and the thing was Bodie McBoatface that they chose. So they were saying that they weren't actually going to name it that. And so they were discussing how that's not very smart, but then the other guy took the opposing side, and then he actually was going through all the reasons why. Very interesting stuff. So, yeah. now we've talked about all sorts of stuff. So this is a very sort of rambly type episode, and I like those. I like just talking about whatever. It's a lot more freeing to the soul and to the heart. So yeah, but want to talk more about? So let's just talk about the Dollars Trilogy. Because we were talking about the chronology of the Dollars Trilogy. Now let's just talk about the Dollars Trilogy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the Dollars Trilogy is one of the greatest trilogies ever. Now, and you agree with me, right? What would you rank it on trilogies? Would it be in your top 5, probably, Benji?
Top 5, maybe.
It might be my number 1. That's maybe it's either that, the original Star Wars, or Lord of the Rings. Because all 3 of those, have only really solid entries. But I really like the Dollars Trilogy. It's so good. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is fantastic. We talked about that before. We talked about all these films individually, but what I really like is reviewing, a whole group of films together,
Uh-huh.
Which I think we're probably going to be doing, later with, Star Wars and stuff. But this is just, I don't know, I really like it. I'd give it, on a whole, 10 out of 10. It's in my top 5.
Oh, yeah.
So we've rambled for a really long time. Anything else you want to say?
No.
No? Yeah. Anyways, what's your favorite part about the Dollars Trilogy? Okay, I'm going to ask you 3 things about it. Who is your favorite character in it? And we're going to be counting the 3 different Clint Eastwood characters as different people, even though they're really the same character in our opinions. But, which incarnation of those in the film is your favorite? Or not of those, they can be, but you can't just say Clint Eastwood as a whole. You have to choose one from a movie. What is your favorite scene? And what is your favorite just sort of part? Okay, so what are those 3 things for you? And this is sort of an out of the blue question, but I just want to see what you say to this.
What did you say, Ethan?
What is your favorite character? And you can't. And if you're going to say Clint Eastwood, then it has to be from either A Fistful of Dollars, For a Few Dollars More, or The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. What is your favorite scene in the trilogy? And what is your favorite just sort of part? Just sort of general part of it.
Okay, got it. Yeah. So my favorite person, I like Fistful of Dollars, Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, he's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be mine too. That scene where he goes, and it's get 3 coffins ready, and then he kills 4 guys, and he's like, my mistake 4. That scene is awesome. He's just a really cool character, and I'm gonna do my answers after yours. So mine would probably be either that, or maybe Tuco, but I'm gonna do the Clint Eastwood and For a Fistful of Dollars, because, I just don't feel right, with Tuco, whenever it's Clint Eastwood. Clint Eastwood has to be one of your favorite characters in that.
Yeah. So, my...
Favorite scene?
Favorite scene? I don't know, that's a hard question. The get 2 coffins ready part.
Was that yours? Because it sounds like A Fistful of Dollars is your favorite. Mine would definitely be the showdown at the end of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
That's really good.
Where they're all 3 there, with Ennio Morricone's music in the background. That's awesome. That's just such a fantastic scene, and it really does show there's so much tension, in a 3.5-minute scene where nothing happens. It's just 3 dudes standing in the middle of a cemetery, just staring at each other, and that is one of the most tense and exciting scenes in movie history, and they do nothing. So that's probably my favorite scene. So would that be the same for you?
Mine's probably in between. Yeah, I've got that one, I guess.
Okay. Well, I don't like us. We agree a lot. Another one, because you only really got one opinion on that, is I guess you only got really one opinion on the other one too. I told you Tuco. Tuco's a really good character. He's really funny and stuff. But the other one is the scene right before that, where Tuco lands in the cemetery or whatever. You know what I'm talking about?
And he's jumping around and stuff.
Yeah. And then you have Ennio Morricone. Ennio Morricone is fantastic, and that is going to be my favorite part of the Dollars Trilogy is Ennio Morricone, because he is my favorite film composer of all time, and his music is glorious.
What do you mean by favorite part, though?
I don't know, just the characters, the direction, the art style, just the western, the shootouts. I don't know, just
the Clint Eastwood.
Clint Eastwood. Yeah, that would count, the fact that Clint Eastwood is so cool throughout all of it.
That one,
yeah. Yeah, so this has been our thoughts on a whole bunch of different things, ranging from the chronology of the Dollars Trilogy to what we think about Bodie McBoatface. Oh, we didn't talk about that, but other people, or the Bodie McBoatface crisis, and our favorite parts about the Dollars Trilogy,
Okay, yeah.
So, yeah. we have a couple quick announcements. We probably should put these at the beginning, right?
Oh, we probably should.
We probably should have. Whatever. We're going to leave them at the end, Because if people don't want to listen to these, then they can just turn it off now. Please don't, though, because we have just released The Bounty onto YouTube. Yay, you can finally watch it after, 6 months or something. It's been a really long time. We should have released it before this, but I just keep on forgetting because I'm a very forgetful person. So that's on. And, so you may have noticed that this is going to be a little late, but I've said no more schedule, so we're just going to be doing these about once every week. Once school begins, which is going to be once about mid-August, which is about when our school begins again. We're going to be doing these about once every 2 weeks. So sorry about that. But, you might be getting a Christmas special or something, maybe, where we talk about all of our favorite Christmas movies. I don't want to, hold us to that, though. But I think we can do that, right, Benji?
Sure.
I think that'd be fun, We could add, a little bit of Christmas music here and there. No, that's too much editing for me. So, but yeah,
yeah.
The Bounty is finally up on YouTube, though, and you guys have been really wanting to watch that, I've heard at least, so, I don't know, just go to the CCCLXVI YouTube channel, if you just go to YouTube.
Just look up CCCLXVI.
And then CCCLXVI podcast, or whatever.
No, you just need to look up CCCLXVI.
You might be able to see us, but it's also on our Soundcloud page, which is probably where you're watching this, or listening to this. And if you're watching this, then you are already on our YouTube page, so just go to videos, and then go click on the one that does not have the Microsoft Paint drawing as a thumbnail. Also, the one with the title of The Bounty. So yes, this has been CCCLXVI, and remember, if you are time traveling back to around the 2005 era, to make sure that all of your Thomas trains do not have any red paint on them, because there are traces of lead in that.